Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Beaver and today we are distilling the AI whiskey that we asked AI to come up with in the previous video. Now if you haven't checked out that video, I'll put a link up here where you can go check out the video where I asked AI to come up with a recipe for a new type of whiskey. So if you want to join along and follow, I suggest you go watch that video so you understand what kind of recipe we have in the fermenter over here. Let's quickly look at the inside of the fermenter because a nice lacto infection started forming a couple of days into fermentation. So let's see what it looks like before we dump it into our kettle and we can distill it. So as we can see, that's a beautiful lacto infection in the top there. So now we can dump it into our boiler and hopefully that's going to carry over some beautiful flavors. So with the still now up to temperature, and we've been keeping it at about 45 degrees for the last 20 minutes at the top, so we have full reflux going down. I'll do a quick shot into the side glasses to show you, but we're running it at full reflux for the first 20 minutes of the run. Now this is going to allow us to compress the heads, but before we talk a bit more about that, let's quickly look at how the still is set up for this specific run to do the whiskey run. So for this run, you'll see we have all 6 side glasses in place, but only 2 of the side glasses has bubble plates in them. So only 2 of them currently have plates. So this will allow us to get about a double distillation running through the still. The reason for the full column length is I want as much reflux, passive reflux as possible on the sides, to bring up the ABV but also maintain a lot of flavor, as well as our little jar of copper coils that we put at the end after the condenser so that the liquid drains through it and it removes that almost cured meat kind of flavors that you normally get from whiskeys from the distillate. So it's time now to start bumping the temperature up and start taking our 4 shots and heads cut. By compressing it, we will be able to get a nice small cut of heads, and our transition into hearts is going to be a nice quick transition, so we're going to get a bigger hearts cut. So let's quickly bump up the temperature and I'll see you guys once we start collecting hearts. So we have now come to the end of the heads part of the run. We're getting closer and closer to us transitioning over into the hearts cut. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to swap out this jar, taste it a little bit, and then I'm going to start collecting hearts. We're taking it off nice and slow at around about 80% ABV. We're going to keep it at 80% for the rest of the run as much as possible. Try not to exceed 80%. If we do, we're just going to bump the speed up a bit by using the PID to turn up the temperature. If it falls too deep below the 80%, what I'll do is I'll turn up the reflux to get that ABV back up. So we're going to try and ride that 80% for the majority of the hearts up until we start tasting tails coming in. And the moment we start tasting tails, I'll be back here filming to give you guys some pointers on what the tails starting to taste like. Now, what am I looking for in the transition from heads to hearts? Currently, this has a little bit of a phenolic taste still to it, a little bit of numbing on the tip of the tongue, but the moment that transitions out and starts going from that green apple taste into a more lively fresh apple, then I will start being solidly into hearts. So I'm going to take smaller and smaller cuts now up until I'm fully into hearts. So yeah, I'll see you guys back when we start heading into tails. So we've now collected the hearts cut and we're now starting to dip into tails. So at the end here I started taking smaller and smaller cuts, and now we are almost all the way into tails. So the tail started with a nice little vegetal note coming in, almost like green grass type of deal. I wanted to keep a little bit of that, so I kept some of that in the cuts, but it has now started turning quite strong vegetable green grass type of flavors. So I'm going to stop collecting the hearts and I'm going to do full into the tails now, but I am going to be collecting deep into the tails to see if there's any flavors. So I'll see you guys in a couple of minutes or a couple of hours, depending on how deep we're going into the tails, to see if there's any flavors hiding down below. And then when I see you guys up top again, we will be tasting that whiskey to see if AI can actually make a good whiskey. With the run all done, I hunted down deep into the tails, but I couldn't get any funky flavors coming in. So what I ended up doing is just using the hearts cut that I cut. It went very vegetal at the end there, and it just didn't start cleaning up. It did hit a little bit of a peppery note, but nothing that I wanted to keep in the final spirit. It went way too tailsy, way too quickly. So maybe that ungelatinized corn didn't allow us to pull some funky flavors at the end. But we did proof it down. It's now in the one jar ready to be aged, but I did leave a little bit of a sample out that we're going to be tasting right now. Now, just a quick couple of notes while I pour this in, that the run started out quite florally. We did have a good sweet note coming right at the beginning when we transitioned from heads to hearts. Carried on with the sweet florally and fruity notes, and then it transitioned into the nice grainy, almost straw-like notes, and then we got a little bit of corn coming through, then that vegetal note coming in, and then it overpowered. So there was no big highlights of flavors or smells, just a nice general whiskey or a bourbon type, because if you remember, it was quite excessive amount of corn in this recipe. If you haven't seen the recipe, remember to go check the video where AI suggested the actual recipe. And then yeah, we ended the run. No highlights, no funky flavors, but a pretty good clean whiskey at the end. I did run this through the blender real quick just to rapid oxidize it so I can taste it and smell it. Yes, it's going to mellow down in a couple of days, but right now it's a nice clean whiskey. Nothing too overpowering. It does have a good corn smell, grain flavor, and it ends with a nice straw on the nose. As for the taste, very clean whiskey, no funky flavors. It does have that sweet corn flavor, so the ungelatinized corn did add some flavor into it, but it's more akin to like a corn head or a sugar head whiskey that you flavored with corn rather than the gelatinized and converted corn. So yeah, did AI make a good whiskey? Well, I can't fault it. There's definitely a acceptable whiskey that we can improve on, but yeah, AI can make a whiskey. If you watched this far, thank you very much for watching and have a lekker day.